welcome back to another episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I am the Uncle Junior Network. I am the Uncle Junior, and with me today are my co-hosts, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Mr. Accountable Masculinity himself, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Victor Viziant. Down at the bottom, Mr. Ray Lewis, the painter, Antoine, Christopher, the other artist, right beside him with the shiny, slick, new bald head, one earphone across the table with Christopher McClellan, ladies and gentlemen.
Damn right.
He is still the angry guy. Ladies and gentlemen, the poor man's Dr. Phil, the man of many hats, Mr. Roland Walker, and for the first time on the show, Antoine, the soldierpreneur Boyd. Antoine and everybody, how are you doing today?
I'm well.
Blessed.
I'm very
Wonderful.
well.
Doing all right. You said Antoine, you meant Antonio, but yeah, we all right.
And why I keep doing that, man?
I understood what you meant.
Antonio, I apologize, man.
I understood what you meant. I understood. I was good.
I keep messing it up, man. I'm looking at, even if you're looking at the name, the ANT, I'm just like, bro, I'm just like, bro. Anyway, I'm babbling. Antonio, take a couple minutes, man, to introduce yourself to the audience, to the platform, to everybody here, everybody watching at home, to let them know who you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. So a little bit about me. I retired about a couple years ago, not even a couple years ago, from the Georgia Army National Guard after 23 years of service. I spent most of my time enlisted at 17, and so things have changed since then. Of course, I got certified as a personal trainer about a few years ago. So I've been doing trainings for a long time, and just recently I got licensed as a financial services agent. So I sell life insurance and annuities to everybody who wants to be able to hide money away from the government, right? You want to be able to hide money away from the government, or you want to decrease your amount of debt, because we do debt mitigation as well. So those are some of the great things that we do. As you can hear, right, my family, right? I started having kids when I was 33. So that was by design, right? And so I wanted to make sure that I finished my bachelor's and my master's degree. So those are the two biggest things I wanted to get out the way. So that's the reason why I went ahead and rocked that way. And so I have a growing family right now, and I'm a JROTC instructor. That's what I do day to day at a local high school here in Atlanta. So I'm coaching, always coaching, and coaching is one of those things that has led me to my growth where I'm at right now. So I'm all about professional and personal growth. More importantly, developing the right mindset to be able to grow and to be able to build. And so that's my job as a mentor and a teacher to these young men right here. I have two boys, AJ and Chance, and I have a wife about 9 years right now. So I've been married. So that's pretty much the bulk of my time, and it's all about growth, man. That's why I think about life is all about growth, and that's what I love about this topic actually, because time is important. It's fleeting, ever fleeting. So what are we doing with our time? How are we growing? At what point do we turn it off? Do we turn it off, like you said, or do we keep growing? Do people just stop at a certain point in their age group, right? Or do people just keep growing, right? I think that's when I think of growth, I think of living. I think of growth, I think of living. Okay, son. Okay.
Hey man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Again, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Coach, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, he's finally here. Dwayne Dwyer, ladies and gentlemen, the only coach you will ever need, the mindset coach. Coach, how you doing today, brother?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. How's everybody doing?
Doing well,
I'm
man.
well. It's good to see you, Coach.
Hey, it's good to be here, man. Out there dealing on the range all day today, so I had to come home and take a nap.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, man.
Hey, welcome everybody to the show. Everybody on the panel, all the men, everybody in the chat, everybody watching at home. We appreciate you for being here tonight. Appreciate all you do. Coach, I'm about to have you plug something in a second, so hold on. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, just in case you didn't know, I got this nice new shirt up here from the Empowering Perspective community. So I am just wearing it, but I can't do it justice by giving it an introduction. So I'm going to tell give Coach a couple of minutes to introduce this shirt and let you guys know how I got this shirt or how they can possibly get one for themselves. Or maybe we would do it later once the internet. Oh, there you go.
I don't know what's going on today.
Oh shoot, they done got Coach.
Bro, they got Coach, they got Antonio, they got Vic.
They got him. Hey, every time we try to do something at the top.
Well, we struggle streaming today.
Hey, AT&T, man, that's all I can say. Hey, no, I appreciate that, man. So the Empowerment Perspective community is easy to find. Just go on YouTube, type in Empowerment Perspective. Kind of like my brother Antonio, the soldierpreneur. Boyd, I hope I pronounced that correctly, brother. That's what Empowerment Perspective is all about. It's all about uplifting people, edifying, providing some clarity in a world that actually is promoting so much confusion that it's not even funny. Every Friday night at 8 p.m. we have
I'll finish it for him every Friday night at 8 p.m. Empowering Perspective podcast. Check it out on Empowering Perspective podcast every Friday night, 8 p.m. You know what? We might well just jump right into the topic, man. So because we don't know how long we're going to have internet. We don't know what's going on. So you know what? Let's just get right into it. Here's the good thing about it. I found a new feature, Vic, and podcasters, Dwayne, everybody, Coach, everybody like that. So everything gonna get downloaded. So I figured out someone taught me. Actually, shout out to Natasha from the Bold and Driven EP. She let me know how to do this last night. So there's a way that once all of this gets done, you can have your individual recording of just yourself. So we'll talk more about it later. Gotcha. Like I said, man, let's jump right into the topic, man. What should men be doing with their time? We're going to start off with Antonio. He is a guest over here. So to get the show and get the ball rolling. So Antonio, what should men be doing with their time? And the talking point to start this off is what is considered a productive use of time? You know, there are a lot of different things. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should be doing. But before we get into that, let's try to talk about and define what a productive use of time is.
Oh man, appreciate that. So I mean, of course, it is a personal thing, right? Some single person, single man, would be considered something else is more important than what I'm considering as important, right? I can speak from my perspective. From when I was single, what was important from when and from when I'm now a married man with kids, right? So my priorities are just different. So whatever you're prioritizing is very important to whatever's very important to you. That's what you should prioritize. And of course, if your job is one of those things that's set in your schedule, if your kids are part of your schedule, or a part of you, because a lot of times they're not, right? Part of your day-to-day activities, you have to shuck some time to that as well. At least an hour within your day, an hour and a half. If you have more time than that, if you're not a business owner, you have more time than that, right? But if you are a business owner like you all are, or a lot of people are, want to hustle and get their time together, I believe a productive use of your time is really identifying those priorities, and you identifying those priorities within your family life structure. Once your family life structure is identified and catered to, meaning in your schedule, then you have to look at your calendar and say, hey, how much more time do I have left? And if I'm in a growing season in my business, I have to allocate more time to that. If I'm at a consistent level, I have a team that's rocking it, then I have more time to grow my business from the outside in. So I would look at, if you're growing from the inside out, you got to identify more time. And if it's productive, it's because you're looking at it as value. It's adding value to your business. It's adding value to whatever component of your business that you're working in. Like right now, I'm working on the back end of my business. And how valuable is it? I think the back end is very important. If you don't have a back end operations, it will fall every time that you add more leads to it. So you got to be able to build. So I'm working on the back end of my business, the automations. So those things are a priority right now. So those are productive uses of my time personally. So if anybody's interested in being in automations or anything like that, let me know. We can talk more about that. That's why I want to be more productive with my time. It's
I
adding in
definitely want some
automations.
more automation conversation.
Hey, you can automate so many things. You automate so many different things, and from your prospecting to your managing of personnel, team building, all these things can be automated, and to the point where you are in the managing phase, right? Because you don't want to be all in the data entry phase of your business. You want to be more in the managing of your business. Once you get somebody else to manage that, then you're in the growing phase. They exponentially growing. So that's the automations, I believe, from a business standpoint, from a growth standpoint, is your back end operations, is your automations, is whatever systems that you have in place. That's what the Army taught me, systems. I was a 92 Alpha my whole career. So 92 Alpha was supply specialist. We had to traverse from this software, this database. We had to keep growing with technology and adapting and overcoming within all the technology and still be proficient in it. Meaning I had to teach these things. So whenever we got something, I had to teach it. So I had to get to learn it. So that's how I leverage technology to get things done. So that's how I consider productivity.
Anybody else? What's considered a productive use of time?
I like the automations piece. It depends on. I think it depends on your business, but I think for me, I would say if it's something that I could do and I already have the equipment, I might go ahead and do it. But if there's an expert that does it better than me, I will outsource that. So I don't have time to, like clean the house all the time, as far as a deep clean or something. So I might get, like someone to come in and clean the house. Now I got, my space back to me, short span of time without having to do a lot of overthinking, and some things are just a time vacuum, like my grass grows too fast for me to cut it every 5 days, so I got to automate that, so I agree with you in that. So I think a good use of time is relative to what it is that you prioritize, and I think that it can't vacuum up too much of your resource that gets you off your path.
Now, when you ask this question, are you speaking as, are you asking it like, I'll just answer it. Nowadays, I believe that the best use of time as far as men goes is finding a skill that's scalable, because things are getting expensive and you're going to have to find a way to eat. So I wish somebody would have told me this 20 years ago. Find a skill that's scalable, so that way you have the resources to pursue what you really want to do. And it's a bonus if the skill that you found that you can scale is your passion and is what you want to do. That's where I would start. Figure out what that is. And on the same token, you got to figure out who you are too. So figure out who you are, figure out what you want to do, figure out what you're good at, and then go for it. That's where I would start.
I think I would jump in and say what a man should be doing with his time. If you aren't where you want to be, all your time, your free time, your allocated time should be to find out first what you want to do, because you don't want to find something to do, because when you find something to do, you're just doing it because. But when you find out where your passion is, where your passion lies, then your heart to go into it and you'll be able to work towards it. But if you don't have the time to relax and that's what you want to do, you got to work. If you got to put food on the table, money in the bank and all this, you got to find yourself something to do that makes use of your time. And we all like to say, well, $20 an hour, $30 an hour, But when you are in your passion and you working and making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do, the monetary gain comes as a plus. But find something like, if I want to go fishing all day, I can go fishing. If I want to just sit on my back porch, I can go fishing because I'm prepared for that. But everybody ain't there. So if you aren't prepared to just sit back and chill, you got to get busy. And I'm not saying just doing busy work, because a lot of people do busy work and look like they're moving, but they aren't moving anywhere. But find your passion, find something that you want to do, that you love to do, and push forward in it. That may be reading, that may be biking, that may be hiking, but whatever it is, if it brings you joy, do that.
I'm gonna go from a healthy mindset. Let's say you're done with the therapy, you're on your path. I'm gonna come from that point of view, right? So a man should know his role as building. Every day you do something towards your goal. I'm assuming you want to lead. I'm assuming you want to achieve things in life. Any man that's got a brain between his shoulders got to know you got to keep going forward. I don't know if you know this, but I pay attention to the stocks and all that sort of stuff. Poverty is at a new high. You have to keep grinding every day as a man. You can't get complacent. You can't get comfortable. You don't have time to rest. They have enough time to rest when you're dead, but you have time to rest when you take those 2 days off or 3 days off. But every day you should be building towards your goal to make sure you're comfortable later on. You use the youth that you have to benefit later on in the old age that will definitely come to us all. So I think a man's productive day should be, first, take care of his health, get up, do what you need to do to get your exercise out. Second, work towards your passion. And if you're in it, what can you do to make it better today? You should always be on your grind. You should never get complacent. Period. That's what I'm going to say.
I think for me, this all depends upon what stage of life you're in, right? I think it's important to have that under wraps first. This kind of goes back to the whole planning for a particular outcome. Productive use of time today may not necessarily produce the outcome that I'm looking for today, but over the course of time, I'll get the outcome that's desired. So I think when we go back and consider, and this kind of goes back to the whole parenting piece I always like to talk about. I think when parents take the time to help their children construct the life that they want to, that kind of propels them on the path that they want to. If they change it at a later point in time, that's fine, right? That's their decision, but at least they got to jump start at doing something. So based upon whatever phase of life you find yourself in at that particular point in time, that helps you to construct what productivity looks like. And again, let's just say a person may be in the phase of their life where the education is the goal. Well, if education is the goal, obviously you start today, you're not going to get the degree tomorrow, right? So obviously course by course, month by month, year by year, you'll get to the point of gaining that bachelor's degree that gets you to that higher pay scale that Antonio was talking about. That Antoine was talking about. Maybe a master's degree after that. So, maybe a doctorate degree, whatever it looks like for that particular person. And I think that's the key. So each person need to construct what they want to produce so that they can understand what productive time may look like over the course of time.
So I'm listening, and if I was to kind of sum up what everybody's talking about, I kind of wrote down this and kind of adding on to kind of verify. At least this is what I think. I kind of wrote down any activity that helps improve your life, yourself, your relationships, or whatever it is that you're working towards. So that's what I came up with. What do you guys think about that?
Say that again?
Yeah.
I said any activity that helps improve your life, yourself, your relationships, or whatever it is that you are working towards.
Yep. That's it in a nutshell.
I think about efficiency, and just getting better, and the more efficient you become, the more successful you become with and without, it's just relative to how much effort you put to the automation of it and get something time back. That's it.
Dang, is it getting everybody?
Not me. I did get over here.
It got me. It got me last week.
It's getting everybody.
Hey man, forget y'all. Hey, forget y'all. I had to go outside and crank up my OE254. I'm not listening to
Hey, did you have your goggles on?
Hey man, I had the hamps on the wheel back there. I'm good now.
The hamster on the wheel.
He said the 08254K.
Yeah. Dang, man.
It's such,
Antonio,
such
you
a
know what that
well-timed
is?
awkward pause.
Yeah, they do probably
Hell
have a
no.
whole bunch of them awkward pauses tonight when certain people start talking just because of the what you call it? Look, even which guy he started laughing. Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Hey, look, hey, if you in the chat or you at home, look, it is what it is. Like some of us, our struggle streaming last week, everybody didn't have their fair share. It's going to happen. It's just part of technology. It is what it is. So you know what, deal with it, because we got to deal with it too. You know what I'm saying? But not to be disrespectful, but that it is what it is. So what are some of the consequences of men when they don't use their time in fulfilling ways?
Not
Having
living a
about
fulfilling
wasted
life
time.
and feeling unfulfilled, which can lead to a lot of depression because you're not where you are, which can lead to anxiety, which makes you think that you need to hurry up and get where you need to go. And then it's like quicksand. It's like quicksand. If you're not using your time in fulfilling ways, you kind of see yourself in quicksand, and then it's like you're fighting your way out of it.
Yeah, it was getting you right there, Chris.
Yeah, you froze.
Really? It was getting me?
You was froze. You was talking like the Chinese people in the movie.
See?
In the movie.
Oh my
would say
God.
something.
Is that what we're doing tonight? But
Bruh.
seriously.
So
But seriously,
I had a
like
situation. I'm sorry.
Nah, go ahead.
I got to understand when unproductive use of my time, the consequences was when I took a year off of football. I was a football guy. I watched football every day, and basketball and all that stuff, and all the newscasts and all that. And it was 1 year. I said, you know what? I'm gonna see how far I can get within myself, my own growth, if I get rid of this component right here for a year. And man, I grew so much. I picked up this book, the first book. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, there you go. That's the first book I picked up, right? And I still got it. I'm still reading it. Right? So I've grown so much that year, and I never look back. And
I talk about that book all the time.
I swear it's the best book ever for me. From it comes down to growth internally, and so that's what I feel like. The consequences. I wasted so much time. I wasted so much time focusing on somebody else and their professional level, looking at them at this high level. Like, man, I'm way down here, but I'm staring at you, not looking in here. So the consequences, you can lose yourself. That's the consequence.
I think the overall not being productive, not doing anything, and not having any real goals in life, I think that's just unhealthy. I mean, like, it's just unhealthy. What are you doing? There's obviously something wrong that makes you so debilitated to do anything. Like, what is it? And I think you need to find out, but it's definitely unhealthy, right? I mean, a plant can't survive without water. You gotta do something that stimulates the brain, gets you going, gets you curious. I think if you just stay like a lump on a log, I mean, you're gonna dry up and do what? And you're definitely not gonna have friends. You're not gonna interact with people. First of all, you can't afford to. Secondly, nobody wants to be around you because I don't know about you, but I don't hang around anybody that's an anchor, right? And I'm definitely not throwing you a lifeline if I know you ain't going to catch it. I'd rather watch you see ya. That's on you, not on me. That has nothing to do with me, right? And I'm definitely not dragging you. So if somebody's like that, throw them a number and say, get some help and move about your business because they got some serious problems upstairs.
Gotcha.
I think, for me, the consequences of men not using their time in fulfilling ways is not even coming to the conclusion of what their highest potential could be, right? You only know what you know within any given space of time. Once you start pushing your boundaries, then you realize, like, man, I could have done this a long time ago. And then why stop there? Like, that's kind of like what the journey of life is all about. Like, coming to the realization of what your potential is, realizing where you sold yourself short. I love listening to the different perspectives just now. I love what Antonio said about Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books behind me. But then it were other books as well. Like I read a lot of Dr. Joe Desperanza. Like he pushes those limitations based upon the things that you think. Like he pushes the mind, and I'm all about that because again, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So when you realize that based upon your environment, based upon what your school system taught you, and all that other great stuff, then you will realize that you are limited by your thinking. So then when you start expanding your thought processes and start practicing those new ideas and those new thoughts that you're having, you'll come to the realization that, you know what, I could have been doing this, a long time. I could have been doing this earlier in my life. So as a older man, what we should be doing is challenging the limited thinking that our children have, right? Challenge them to step outside of their comfort zone, challenge so that they don't never get to the point of complacency. Because I think for me, that's the thing that scares me most of all is getting to the point of complacency. So I'm always challenging myself to do something more. If I find myself, to Antonio's point, if I find myself watching too much TV, then what could I have been doing instead of just racking up the couch potato hours, right? So I think that's the key, not coming to the realization of what your highest potential could possibly be.
I agree, and I think, like you said, you started talking about kids and stuff like that. You see a lot of kids out here, and we see them like they're wasting their time. You know what I mean? They're on their phone the whole time. Every time you see them, all you see at the top of their head, you see this little white thing sticking out of their ear from up underneath their hoodie. You know what I mean? And that's how a lot of them walk around all day. And you's like, man, you see kids. He's like, I know this dude got some potential. He got it. He got this, but he won't use it because they're too focused on the phone or the games
Now, one thing I will add, he might be listening to the Uncle Junior Network.
or the Empowering Perspective podcast, or he could be listening to the code on audiobook.
There you go. So
Boom.
I'm only sharing that because I know we can, of course, our generation, we don't really think too much of that, that digital intoxicating hypnotizing device that kids
Dopamine.
carry around. Yeah, exactly. Because in most cases they're probably listening to music or something unproductive until we actually find out what it is. So I say for us,
True.
let's not automatically assume it's wrong. Let's communicate with them and find out exactly what it is, and then try to steer them, not push, steer them in a direction. Say, look, I don't mind you listening to that, but take an hour or two to listen to this, or listen to this, or go listen to this book, or read this book, and let's talk about it at a later point in time.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I also get the other side of that, right? So the other side of that is this. What if they are doing something that, like, say for you got some kids out there and they're gaming, right? And they want to be a gamer. Well, the balance of being a father and trying to help and support their dream of being a gamer, along with them using their time in a productive way. So, there's some guys up here that have kids. So, what are your thoughts on, children who want, or anybody, children who want to push their dream, or like Roland said earlier about your heart, versus doing something that we as parents may seem a little bit more productive? Maybe I didn't answer my question right.
All right, fine. I jump out there. Y'all don't want to
Okay.
talk. So
Well, no,
I'm gonna
kid.
answer. I'm gonna answer based upon what I believe you're asking. I would say first, initially for me, is that maybe my thinking about what productivity might be limited based upon that generation's concept as well. So before I jump out there and impose my generational ideas to my son, who my youngest son is 18 years old. So before I jump out there and impose my generational ideas to him, what I would prefer to do is sit down with him and talk with him and find out what his thoughts are, what's he's thinking. Like, what are your anticipation, like based upon what you're doing right now, where do you think that's going to get you at tomorrow? Where do you want to be at tomorrow? Let's start there. And then once he tells that, why not this, why not that? So now it's kind of like me not shooting it down, but just kind of giving him some other things to think about as well. I think one of the most interesting conversations I had with him one day is when he said that, Dad, why am I taking science? Like, for what reason am I I don't want to be a scientist. So I'm taking science in school and that does me no good. I say, well, I get that. And I'm not saying that it's going to be the most empowering thing that you're going to use coming out of the school system, but it will teach you something. It will teach you how to look at things objectively. It will teach you how to make assumptions based upon facts, things of that nature. And I say those things will actually feed into your life. So all of these collective experiences that you have together will actually add value to you at a later point in time. Just don't close your mind to it right now. So I said all that to say, for me, first thought, maybe my thoughts about what his generation is supposed to be doing might be limited based upon what my generation seen growing up. Then get into their thoughts, find out what he's thinking, so forth and so on. And shout out to those 3 young brothers we talked to not too long ago. Brother Trust, I can't remember, Eric Johnson, and you know what I'm talking about. Andre. Yeah. So shout out to them because they said a lot of great things that kind of lean in the same direction. Tellers, there you go. Yeah. Same things that lean in the direction of what I'm talking about right now, right? So we need to not assume that we know everything there is to know, and then realize that we as adults can learn a lot from our children. And so first stage is learn what they're going through, learn what their experience is, learn what they want to do, and then help them to develop that.
Yeah, I definitely like that. I can definitely dig that. Hey, real quick, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's watching at home on Code Talk, Across the Table, the Uncle Junior Network, all these different things, Chris McClellan, all the different platforms. Anybody who's out there, appreciate you joining in and being with us this evening. I really appreciate it. Moving right along, gentlemen. What are some? What do you? What do you think of some common ways that men spend wasting their time? I know I kind of hit on gaming. Antonio had talked about, you know, his use of television and watching a lot of sports and stuff like that. So what's considered a use of what's what are some common ways that men just waste time in general?
Well,
Chasing women that don't
social
love
media.
them.
Arguing with people
There you
on
go,
social
Chris.
media.
And that too.
Yeah.
Arguing with people on the internet. What is wrong with you?
Arguing with people on the internet. Okay.
Anything done in excess that's not moving you forward. Because you can play the game, you can watch TV, but if that's all you doing and you ain't moved forward, but you saying you got goals, then no, that's too much. Because I think one of the brothers here, he talking about his Jonathan. He said his 6-year-old son wants to be a gamer, and that's fine. But I think what I would do is I would get him into a coding class and let him learn how to code, because it connects him with the game. So he now knows how the game works, and he can start to build his own games. And if he wants to be a gamer, other than just playing, thinking I'm about to get this 50 G's because I won Madden on TV, you know, you get into coding and you can make millions.
See, all right. So I work in, like I said, I work in elementary school, pre-K through 5. You can't tell some of these kids that they ain't going to be a YouTuber or that they ain't going to be a TikTok, you know, multi-millionaire, you know, influencer. You can't tell them that. You know
but
what
that
I
was
mean?
us playing sports growing up.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
I
good
just
point.
knew I was going to be
Good point.
Deion Sanders.
So how did our parents balance it, and how do the next generation balance it? Or do you just say, because I've heard parents, I've heard dudes say, you know what, we don't have a plan B. I told my child to go 100% into football, even though he's 5'5", 103 pounds, to go 100% in football, right? And he 18 years old and he ain't starting, right? And he
Is
right. So, and I mean, I'm just saying, I know I've taken it too far, but you know, there are plenty of situations where parents have said that we're going 100% plan A. There is no plan B, because I don't want my child to think about there is a plan B. I don't want them to have an option. I don't want them to think that there's something else out there that they can't achieve, because it takes away from their intensity on wanting to get to the main goal.
well, you know
That's
what?
the problem.
I'm gonna say, kids today need to be spoken to honestly, because if they don't get it from you, they're gonna get it off the internet. Whatever you think you're not telling them, they're gonna find that information off the internet. Everything's available today. from sex ed to everything. So you really got to look at it. If your kid goes off track, that's because he has another guidance that it ain't you, right? His other guidance is when he goes to school and he's got his laptop, or he's got his phone, or he's got his circle of friends. That's where he's getting information. So parents have to be honest with their children today, right? Truth hurts. I mean, my father was always honest. He's from the islands. I told when I was coming up, and all my brothers were taller than me. My brother is 6'1", my other brother is 5'10", right? The only one that's short in the family is me. And I told my dad, you think, come on, how come I haven't sprouted yet? He told me straight up. He goes, son, you ain't going anywhere. That's it. I'm telling you like it is. So you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to make up for it with money. You're going to have to make up with it with money. Looks and height goes out the window when you're standing on your wallet. Over it.
I knew it was coming.
You ain't gonna be an NBA player. You're not. You're a great martial artist. Love it. But you ain't going to be no pro boxer. You're not. You're not going to be no Bruce Lee. You're not. He was always honest with me. And he always made me focus on my goal, which was art. He said, you love drawing so much. Make a name for yourself. I'm not saying he didn't want me to follow art because, he knew about the starving artist, which is true. So I studied marketing and things to help my art. But he was always honest with me. My dad was, and I loved him for, and let me tell you, love hurts. Truth hurts, man, when it comes like cold. He wasn't sugarcoating it. He wasn't saying, well, you're really good. Don't worry. Just stick with it, man. He wasn't doing none of that shit. He pulled me aside and said, no, your brothers obviously come from my side. You just happen to come from your mom's. That's it. And I think parents need to do that. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be cold, blunt, and dish, but you have to be honest and you have to set goals that they can achieve so they feel some sense of accomplishment. They're not coming home after the game crying to you because they didn't score A, B, or C or do what they needed to do. And I think if you're like that and you be realistic about their goals and you see potential, you kind of like point out their positivity, point out where you see their growth, where you see you have a chance at this. I mean, come on, man. 5'5" football. Man, son, look at the size of that guy on the field. You really think you're going to eat your Wheaties and get like that? You're lucky if he doesn't sit on you. And I want you to come home to me because that kid's going to break your back. So get out of football. No amount of pads is going to save you from getting crushed. That's all I'm saying. You can enjoy the game. You can be a good bench warmer, maybe catch a ball here and there and get a trophy out of it as a team sport, but you ain't going to shine. I mean, let's be real. I mean, they're lucky if they see you at 5'5", I mean, today these kids are coming out of school 6'1", 6'2". I'm looking at them going like, God damn. You know what I mean? I'm going to need a bodyguard for my kid. That's how I see it.
What you got, Antonio?
Well, I totally get that, Antoine. But a lot of guys don't even have that male figure in their life to speak anything. And like, if a woman is speaking, they think one way, but when a man says it, that male figure, that mentor, if that person says it, carries a little bit more weight. But a lot of times they don't have that, and that's really creates more waste of the time if you can really dive into that, because you spend a lot of time, you waste a lot of time growing up like I did without a dad, with answers, with questions, so many questions. So I feel like everybody should be in mentorship somewhere, some fashion, to be able to communicate with the younger men, right? You have to be able to communicate with a sternness like I do every day. I don't take no shorts. I'm talking straight to these young guys. I'm in a high school, 9th through 12th, right? I'm talking to everybody. Whoever's listening when I say talk to, I mean, I get that moment, right? I don't preach at all. But the goal is mentorship. That's how you get people to stop wasting their time in life. If we can have that male figure, because it's super important. It's super important. I don't know if anybody here, but I know I've wasted a lot of time because I didn't have that. I didn't have a lot of answers to no questions, man. I had to figure things out, but I did.
But I tell you,
yeah.
Is it fair to say that you and I didn't grow up in this time, right? But it's so easy today to find a mentor with the access you have and a little bit of guidance. I mean, even the counselors at school are doing better. I mean, they visit you at home on Zoom. I mean, you have so many avenues today, right? Your mother can't, I get it. The single parenting, if you're a single mother and you're honest with yourself, you can't give no boy no guidance. I mean, really honest, right? So but you can help him find what he needs to find, that male figure, that teacher, that, somebody he can connect with, that his best friend's father. You can help him find that male figure he needs that is a positive influence. That's all I'm saying. They have the access today, not like when we did. I mean, everything was a phone. Today it's on your thing. We have to actually dial, right? Let's be real. So I think coming from that, and I think seeing it the way people have it today, they have it a lot easier to find that mentor. We have to at least agree on that.
It also depends on where you're coming from.
I
Because
agree.
if you're coming from an inner city, you don't have the opportunities as you would when you're outside of the inner city, and the people that you look up to already simply because they are the hierarchy in the neighborhoods or the community are the drug dealers, the gang members, and things like that. So you aren't always steered in the right direction. So and neither were your parents. So sometimes it's a plight that may need a push from some outside forces.
Right. I agree with that, because listen, there's a ghetto in every nationality, every race. There's always a ghetto, right? There's always that unfortunate kid, and there's always those eggs you're going to break, and you can't save everyone, nor would I want to, right? There's only so many people that become the 1%. You know if you're going to become the 1% or not. But I do believe, and I say it again, and I keep saying it, as much as people say the inner city is this and the inner city is that, it's not as bad as it is. All right? It's not as bad. Yes, it's bad. Yes, it's bad, but you have more access to the outside through school. And as crappy as those computers are at school, you have more access to the outside to get help. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think when you already have learned biases and things like that are already intrinsic in the mentality of the children, so they won't reach out for that. They'll just be thinking, oh, I play Madden all the time, so I'm gonna be a gamer or something like that, or I'm gonna play sports, because that's all you think, that's all you see, and you learning everything from your radio, your TV, and those things that are there to destroy your being, your manhood, but that's what you're learning from. So it's a harder battle for some of those.
And I think some of the things is just you're born into it. Like if great granddaddy was a gangster, granddad was a gangster, daddy a gangster, all the brothers gangsters, you're probably going to be a gangster. I don't care what's going on. It's probably going to be, you ain't going to have no choice. That's part of the family business. So that's probably what you're going to end up growing up to be. And I know that may not be every case, but yes, there is more access out there. And even though there's more access, people still don't know that they need to access certain things. I didn't know about mentors till I was in my 30s. You know what I mean? For I really understood that what a mentor was. And then in my 40s, to where I really understood the importance of it and why I needed one. You know what I'm saying? And really, sometimes, a coach could be a mentor. He could be my mentor, even though he may not know it. You know what I mean? So things like that, putting yourself in front of the right people and knowing that you need a mentor, knowing that you need a mentor is the key. That's the big key right there. Knowing if you need a mentor, and everybody don't always know that they need a mentor. Like I said, I didn't know until I was in my 40s.
But that falls in the category is you can't save everyone. Somebody has to be in that pool. That's all I'm saying.
So I kind of want to go back if we can, because I know we talked about if my child wants to be a professional football player and he's like 5'2", 105, soaking wet, right? I believe in brutal honesty to a certain degree, right? I don't want to destroy the dream that he has, because before, if you go back, and I don't know how, looking at most people, when you go back into certain eras, there was a guy named Eric Metcalf and some real short guys, Darren Sproles, like 5'8". Before those guys, 5'8" was not even dreamed of in the NFL. So I don't want to destroy the dream, first of all. However, what I also help the child to understand is not to limit any options along the way. Maybe you are not designed to be on the field in the NFL. Maybe you're designed to be on the sidelines in the NFL. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, when you shoot the dream, then the child feel kind of like disheartened and just feel like you don't have faith in them and things of that nature, then you lose the opportunity to mentor that child. And that's the point I want to go at right there, because again, I'm agreeing with the brutally honest, but sometimes we need to keep that to ourselves. And we just need to empower the child where they are and realize that a lot of things in their life involves the mistakes that they're going to make en route to the destination that they choose. Because when you inject, you interfere with that lesson.
But I'll just the only thing I'll say against that is I'm not going to teach my kid about delusional or about being delusional. I'm not going to go down that path and say, listen, buddy, Spud Webb was a great basketball player, but how long ago was Spud Webb? I mean, it's great to have him on the wall as a poster, but Spud Webb wouldn't survive today in the NBA.
But what you have to understand.
But all I'm saying is I'm not gonna feed the delusion into his dream. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna say, listen, I want you to enjoy the game. I want you to see how far you can go. But at the end of the day, son, make sure that 6-foot guy that's 10 ain't sitting on you, because you got one spine, and I'm not paying the bills for that one spine that you gonna break.
Right. No. What you have to understand is it's delusional in your mind. I just got finished talking about limiting beliefs. So when you impose your limiting belief on your child, you're injecting delusion into that child. That's the thing. You have the difference between the two. Yes, the difference between limiting belief and taking the limits off of your belief. That's the thing we need to understand. That's just, and again, I'm not trying to convince you of it. It's just something to consider, right? And I'm with you. I understand about delusion, but sometimes the best lessons learned are found in the mistakes that people make.
Yeah, I just don't want him to think he can fly and jump off a building either.
Listen, man, listen. The worst thing that you can do to these kids is destroy their dreams because you can't see yourselves doing them. That is the worst thing you can do to these kids. You cannot do that, man, because we are in a new era. These phones, like Antoine said, there's so much information out there, and these phones have literally everything on it. So if this child decides that he wants to be a gamer, or if this child decides that he wants to be a football player at 5'3", 130, there are ways that he can do that. He does not need your limited belief set thrown upon his goal set, because then he'll start to think, damn, the one person that I'm supposed to come to for everything doesn't even believe in me. So what do I do now? You understand what I'm saying? I understand the brutal honesty component behind it, but there's also the emotional and mental mind state that your child is going to have based off of the things that come out of your mouth, because you're dad, and he's going to respect what comes out of your mouth because you are dad. So you have to be careful when you're trying to make them you have to be careful when you're putting them in the position to not be quote unquote delusional and just flat out destroying what they want to do. Because if you do that, then there's a whole nother side of it that nobody really dives into. Then he's not going to want to do anything, because if he's like, why not? Why would I want to do anything? Or why would I want to come to you with what I want to do when all you're going to do is shit on what I'm doing because you can't see yourself doing it, or you can't see how I got this person, and this person to help me do it. You understand what I'm saying? There's a different side to this that people don't understand.
Hold on. Hey, real quick, Antoine. I want to hear from Antonio. He has a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. So both boys. So I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this conversation.
Well, I definitely have a conversation. I would say one of the most men waste their time is by being angry. All right, being angry, and that's what he was just talking about. Being angry. If you start that ship going forward, what I would say to that child, or would say to anybody else that's angry, hey, let's start writing this stuff down. All right, step by what we're gonna do. All right, so you want to do this? All right, this is what's gonna require. This, right? We start planning out. Hey, this is what we're gonna do. Are you ready to do this? Because this is what it depends. This time commitment, this body structure, got to focus on this. All right, you ready to build it? All right, let's go. Let's go to the gym. You ready to be a basketball player? My son wants to be an NBA basketball player. I love it. Yeah, let's do it, man. Shoot, okay. Well, you know, to be an athlete, you got to drink more water, right? You know, to be an athlete, you got to eat better, right? You know, as an athlete, you got to work out, right? Are you ready for that? These are the things that we have to dive into. And for me, to being angry, you could be angry about all types of stuff. Go, like I could be angry doing stuff. I gotta still focus on building him up. He want to be a ball. Be mad at him, whatever. He's not cool. I got you. But you know, John Morant, he drank his water. Did you see him? He drank his water. Aren't you? Or don't you want to be a ball player? So those things, I would walk them through the process and get their buy-in into the situation. But as with anybody, right? Let's say Victor said he want to do this, he want to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, all right, well, you want to do this? Cool. Let's do this. Let's see what it's going to take. What is it going to take? Like you're talking about properties, right? You want to be a real estate agent, huh? You mad because everybody making money around you? All right. This is what it's going to take to be a real estate agent. Or this is what it's going to take to buy a property, be a property owner, be investing, blah, 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 blah. Everybody wants these multiple streams of income. This is what it's going to take. You ready for this? Right? I'm not gonna crap on your dream, but I'm just gonna show you, hey, this is what you're gonna have to do. You ready for it? Plain and simple.
First of all, I never said to destroy a big dream. I said be realistic with it. There's a difference. I'm not saying I'm going to go and tell him the hard truth. I'm going to build on it. Of course, I'm going to encourage him to do what he wants to do. First thing I'm going to tell him is, okay, let's find out the requirements. Let's find out what you need. I'm going to bring him down to reality, right? I am going to bring him down to reality because I'm going to say, hey, what are the requirements? Just like if he says, I want to be a pilot, I'm going to say, well, knowing right off the bat, that's math. So I'm saying to him, I said, hey, you know what? That means you got to do good in school with your math. Let's figure. I'm going to encourage him to where he wants to go. But at some point, I'm going to say, these are the requirements, son. Where do you see yourself fitting in this bunch? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying to destroy his dream. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to take him down the path of delusion, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be realistic with him, but I'm going to encourage what he wants to do. And I'm going to build him up to the best of his ability. And that's what you should do.
So basically what you're saying, Antoine, is, and the reason why I'm asking this question is because what you just stated is what's missing. What you just said was, if your child comes to you and says that you want to do something, you're going to help him map it out so that way he can get it done, or to see if he even wants to do it. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I said, wait. That's why I said what I said, because a lot of parents nowadays don't do that. It's either one or two things. They either try to live vicariously through their child, or they shut their child down because they can't see themselves as the parent doing it. What you just said is what is missing in our community. And that's why I said the worst thing that you can do is shit on the kid's dream. These kids need encouragement. These kids need guidance. And most importantly, these kids need focus, especially these boys.
Listen, I believe in that, but I'm just telling you straight. I'm going to tell my kid the hard, cold truth. I'm going to tell him A, B, and C. And I see nothing wrong in that. I'm not going to feed his delusion. I'm going to encourage him, but I'm going to feed his delusion. And I think parents need to be like that with these kids. Because if I'm telling you now, if you don't be straight with him and honest with him, he's going to hear some crap out there that he's going to say, whoa, no. And and I'm not, listen, I get it. You know, the whole, the statistics show it, how many people come from single parent homes. Nobody has a dad and all that. I'm sorry, whatever. But you know what? There's mentors out there. And if I was anybody, I would seek that. Because that's the first thing I think any child should do if they don't have it at home. And if I'm the single parent, I would encourage that, right? I think you should encourage that, period.
Sounds good to me then, gentlemen. Moving right along. We are almost an hour into the show. I want to take another opportunity to thank everybody in the chat, everybody watching at home. See a lot of different information, a lot of different comments going on and different things like that. If you do have a comment or a question or something, like a question for the show or for the panel, feel free to pop it up. We may get around to it, just FYI. It threw me off. Where's we at? All right, so man, I was liking that conversation. I kind of don't even want to get back to the topic, but at the same time, I would like to. So we talked about all the different things, right? So how can, like, how do we teach our sons, or how do we teach other men to like kind of develop a sense of purpose? You know what I mean, or goals or anything like that when it comes to their time. You know what I mean? Like, how do we help guide them into kind of like saying, hey, look, this is probably a little bit more productive than this. Kind of like piggybacking off of what Coach already had literally just talked about. You know what I'm saying? So how do we move that part of the conversation forward to where now we're giving solutions to where we're helping men navigate life to get to their goals, and not, more than just the talking piece, or maybe it is just the talking piece. What you got, Roland?
I think first and foremost, you got to model it. You got to model it. Give them something to look forward to. And when you model it, they like, man, I want to do that. And they see, like I always tell my grandsons, you always got to have some money in your pocket. Always got to have some money. But there are ways I got to teach them how to get money, so they don't just think they just got to go get some money. So I think first and foremost, you model it, and then you pique their interest. That's why you got to take them to various things, expose them to a gambit of things, so they don't just have to choose one or two things. They can say, okay, I like this, I like that. So when their likes are broad, now they can narrow it down on their own, and then you can target that to see how you can push them or lead them and guide them in whatever area they choose.
I think they got to have variety, so you can find out if you're good at multiple things. First and foremost, you got to have a skill to maximize your time. If you don't have a skill, you're going to be in a position where somebody else is going to use you for more labor. You'll have less of your time if you don't have a skill. So a skill that you can actually monetize. And that needs to be a level of intellectual property involved with it, and something that you can do physically as well. Because in the worst case scenario, you got to be useful to yourself. So if you can create passive income from intellectual property and mix it in with some other resources and networks, you can travel far. But like all of those things, comfort is hard to obtain without any of the different things that I named. Doesn't say that you can't do it. It just says it's a lot more obtainable when you have resources and a solid network where you add value to it. I think that your goal to, like, people like saying build yourself up. It's about gaining tangible experience that at some point benefits you in key situations. You may have an experience that you had when you worked at a fast food chain when you were a younger man, and you may evolve to a point where you're working in a situation where it requires you to multitask a little bit more. And that experience, from back in the day when you worked, fast food or whatever, may be tangible enough to leverage, so you can sort out chaos and become a better problem solver. So I don't figure it out unless you try to do something. And I think you got to develop a skill so you can actually support your case scenario.
I think it's going to sound kind of reminiscent of what I said previously. I think sometimes, and I'm not disputing anything that anybody said before I say this. I think sometimes we need to recognize that my prior experience may not necessarily be the thing that my child springboard off of. So part of that is understanding that me and my child may need to learn together as we partner for that child to springboard into the life that he wants to live. Think about it. When you go back to our parents and things of that nature, it was a transition from industry to industry. Like, we are the generation that actually seen the factory industry change from the factory industry to the .com industry. So our parents, as great as they are, they were the group that probably struggled helping us to get to where we were trying to get to in life. And so the same looks like, kind of like what we just talked about with the gamer. Having a game as playing a game as a profession was unheard of for our group because we were raised by hard workers. And so now you look at the upcoming generation, working hard is not something that most of them are going to do based upon the way that we understand it. Working hard looks different to them. So I think when it comes down to helping them develop a clear sense of purpose, the first thing that we understand is that we may not necessarily know what their purpose is, right? We help them to get to the point of developing their purpose on their own as we partner with them en route to their destination. If you really want to see a relationship thrive, go through the struggle with the person. Don't act like you know the struggle that they're going to go through. Sure, you can use your experiences to help them overcome said struggle that they will get. But when you always try to talk to the child from the place of dominance, then trust me, it's going to be somebody else out there that's going to talk to them from the place of connection. And that's going to be the person that they go to more so than they go to you. So I think the biggest thing, how can men develop a clear sense of purpose, is understand that they have to, like, no one can do it for you. You have to do it on your own. I can tell you what my purpose is, but that does nothing for the other 5 men on this panel. And that's the piece. The same thing is going to happen for your child. Sure, you want to pass along your spoils to your child, but that goes in conjunction with whatever their purpose is. It's not going to be their purpose, and I think that's the thing. Now, if you have a family business that you're trying to pass on, and you're grooming them to take over the family business, that may or may not work. You got to be open to that. So helping them understand that they need to develop a clear sense of purpose, and I can't do it for you. I can partner with you and help you, but I can't do it.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to piggyback off of what you and Roland just talked about. Roland mentioned purpose, and you mentioned partnership. You know what I mean? When you speaking to the boys and the kids and just other men and different things like that. And I think it's peace too. When you're having these conversations, I think that, it has to be a purpose. I think modeling is always a great way to get your point across to someone without having to do anything. If you are an upstanding citizen, you come to work on time, different things like that, people will just see that. Those are something that you can pass down to your child without actually having to actually say anything. They can see you do those things. Having a partnership when you're having a conversation with your child or your son or something like that, it works a lot better, because usually when you're working as a partnership, you both have a goal that you're trying to achieve, and it's not just me telling you what to do or how you should be. And I like the point that Antonio talked about, is laying out the foundation for what people want to do, and what your kids want to do. And I think that works with purpose and goals and guiding and how they spend their time too. You say, hey, look, you're playing games, little bro, for 7 hours a day. If you continue to grow spend 7 hours a day, you know what I mean? What could you be doing if you had a part-time job and you was working, let's say half of that time, 3.5 hours of it? You know what I mean? Think of the money that you could save. Think about what you could do with that money. At some point in your life, you're going to want to retire. So I think all of those things are important when you're trying to help your child or help someone when it's come time to trying to develop your purpose and goals, and how to guide them on how people should spend or how they can be spending their time. Like I said, it ain't always about this what you should be doing, this what you should be doing. You know what I mean? Talk it out, bro. If you keep spending 7 hours a day on the game, what is going to be the end goal of this? You know what I mean?
But if I can add to that,
yes, add to.
I think the piece here is that if it's their plan, I don't have to help them understand that they're not intimately involved in their plan, because it's their plan. They're going to want to spend the time that they need to make that plan come to fruition. If it's my plan, that's when they're going to do those other things, the unhealthy things, because it wasn't something that they really wanted to do. It's something that my dad told me I got to do. So it's like, okay, I get around to it. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of time in it. But help them to develop the plan. I promise you, you don't have to convince them to put time into it. They'll do it on their own.
I think, like, as a parent, first of all, depending on what age your kid is, what age your child is, first of all, you're going to let him be the kid he wants to be at a certain age, right? You're going to let him have his fun and be the kid that he wants to be. If he wants to play, let him play. And then at a certain age, as he develops, you develop. But I think you should lead by example, right? You really need to be that role model and let him see what you're doing and mimic your actions that are positive. And I think that's very important as an influence on a kid, right? Because I looked at everything my dad did, everything. And I'm like, wow. And, you know, to be an artist, you have to always be freaking honing in on your skills. To be anything technical, you got to be honing in on your skills. And I think that you have to set these goals and set these boundaries and let them know this is how it's done. This is a road plan. You can go off of it, right? You can go off of it and do what you feel you need to do. But I'm telling you, you lay the foundation of the road plan of how it should be. If they want to experiment in their own, listen, there's 1,000 ways to paint something. I'm only going to show you one way, and you can come up with your own style after that. That's it. I'm going to show you how to use Photoshop. But there's 1,000 keys to know what to need to do. And I think be one of those keys. Be a solid key for him. That's all I'm saying as the child is growing. Now, when he gets to a certain age, he's going to want his own wings. Sorry, buddy, you're going to have to let him fall. He's going to have to learn. There's something called tough love for a reason. And too many of these kids are growing up pussified today that you're looking at them going like, did you not play in a playground? You got hit. So get up, dust yourself off and get back in there. You want to be the best, then act like the best. Get back in there. And I think sometimes you need to enforce these things. But you need to be the role model.
I have in reference to developing a clear sense of purpose and goals. You guys mentioned purpose, partnership. Whose plan is it? I say, what's your passion? What's your passion? And so to develop that passion, my goal is to build that house, build that structure that I can help them develop whatever their passions are, right? You're talking about basketball. I need a basketball court in my house. I need a basketball court. I need a green room. I need a huge media room. That's what I need. And I believe everything is marketing, right? You said that, right? Who was that said that? Antoine, you said that. Marketing, right? So we talking about how to get yourself out there. If you want to grow yourself, grow your business, why do you think they're investing all their time and all this data that they're looking at on their Instagram or TikTok? Is somebody's marketing. They're marketing. So how are we marketing our kids? How are we developing that opportunity for them to market and developing their passion? So because they have to, those two go hand in hand. As you said, Antoine, those two go hand in hand, your passion and how you can build that passion to letting people know who you are and what you do. So that's what I want to help them identify their passion and help them grow that passion.
There you go.
That would help them with their goals and identifying, developing that clear sense of purpose, because they have to be able to make sure that they are doing the right things. That's feeling good. I think everybody has said that before. All right. If it feels great, do it. If it doesn't feel great, don't do it.
Man, Antonio, mind you, I don't have kids, but I have a damn good example of how to raise one based on how my dad raised me. That's the only role model I can go by, right? Because you see a lot of kids out there without a role model, with a single parent thinking they're doing a better job. Just because you gave birth to a kid doesn't make you a good parent. It just makes you had a kid. Just because you planted a seed and all of a sudden you got a son makes you a good parent. No, that's when the work begins. You just happen to have a biological kid until that happens. What you instill in him is the parent part. That's all I'm saying. So a lot of these people that talk like, oh, you don't have kids, you can't talk on kids. I don't. But I do know when I do have one, how I have a perfect example of how to raise one, because I came from a perfect parent to a nuclear family, both parents together. Yeah, they had mistakes and all that. And if I was a single parent, believe me, I do the research and the homework to become a good one.
Antoine, I agree with you. I think that most people start off. I think that if you don't have kids, a lot of us, we start initially parenting like how we were parenting. I think as you have kids, we take certain things from our parents. We take certain things from our experiences. We take certain things from the way that our spouse was parented as well. Because you got to think about it. When you're parenting, there may be two different parent styles coming into the house. Yes, you have an agree, you talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But things change. Not saying anything. I totally get it. Totally understand where you're coming from. And I understand that you do have a perspective, and your perspective is from someone who doesn't have kids. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's your perspective. That's your reality. and I totally 100% agree with it. At the same time, I want to move for. Oh, you got something, Chris? Before I move,
No, I was gonna say he does have that standpoint, but he also has a standpoint of coming from a two-parent home, and we don't have that.
yeah,
You understand what I'm saying? So he has that aspect of it too. So
yeah. That's
a
his
lot of the
reality. Everybody up
yeah,
here, this is all our reality.
right. That's why
I get you, Antoine.
when he speaks about how his family came up, I listen because I never had that. So I wonder how it would be like if my dad were to actually come and sit down with me and say, "Hey, son, I know you want to do this, but you're better at this. So let's do what you're better at, but you can still do this." You understand what I'm saying? Like, so like when he speaks about the dual parenting thing, I listen. And I can understand that he wants to take some of the things that he got from his dual parent home and implement them into his own upbringing when he has children. You understand what I'm saying? So I get it. It's just it's just that his experience isn't a lot of ours. You understand what I'm saying? So I get it. I'm always open to listening to new experiences.
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I want to throw a curveball in there. So what was anybody up here? I like to go around and honestly, because we always talk about being solution based. What was one of the biggest wastes of time in your life? Don't say marriage, coach.
Chasing women that didn't love me. I'm gonna say that again.
I'm picking, coach. Hey, coach, I'm reflecting. No, for real. You said, all right, so for you, Chris, it was chasing women that didn't want you. That was one of your biggest waste of time.
Yes. Chasing women that did not want me or did not have intentions that were conducive to my growth or our
And
growth. I
and
kind of,
how did that
like I said, say it again. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say a follow-on question is to this is how did that affect you, or what did it cost you?
Time. It cost me time. I don't care about the money. It cost me time. Time that I can't get back. Time that if I would have taken this is why I love the book Think and Grow Rich. If I would have taken all of that energy that I used to chase a woman that didn't want me and put that towards a goal, boy, listen, no offense, but if I would have done that 20 years ago, I don't think I would be sitting here. I'm gonna be honest with you.
We'd be watching you.
Probably. I'm not gonna hold you in this, and that's not arrogance. It's
No, I like it.
It's accepting the fact that I wasted so much time doing that when I could have been doing this, and they would have came anyway. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, chasing women that did not love me was the absolute biggest waste of time I have ever experienced in my life. You got that shit right.
Wow. I'm gonna jump in here before y'all get started again. Ooh, biggest. What's the question again?
Woo.
You muted.
That's why I got the button. Look at that. What is one of the biggest wastes of time in your life?
I can't blame nobody else because I chased women. I was led by my little Peter and all that other stuff. But I think discipline, the lack of discipline, having the lack of discipline has affected every aspect of my life in a negative way. Because when you don't have discipline, you chasing the women, you chasing the money, you leading with your Peter, you doing all these things that lead you to destruction instead of your own goals. But when you are disciplined, resilient, and you goal oriented, lifestyles change and your behavior change.
You know what? I'll go next. For me, the lack of accountability. I'm just being real. And at some point in my life, I was always right. And the other person was always wrong. And whenever anything was brought to me, I would always twist it, I would turn it, and I'm like, nah, it ain't like that. Zero accountability for many years in my life. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So for me, that lack of accountability cost me relationships. It cost me money. It cost me probably to get in more trouble and to get demoted in the military. Like a whole bunch of negative things just came in my life from just having no accountability. And what you have when you don't have accountability is you don't have growth. So what happened is if you're not accountable, you don't reflect, you don't do any of those things. So you never come to the understanding that something needs to change. And in turn, you never change. So you stay where you are in the same old unaccountable self or same old unaccountable life. So for me, mine was not having any accountability. Antoine muted. I want to hear what his is. Or you just laughing at everybody.
Dude, my biggest
Oh,
I'm laughing
shit.
because my biggest waste of time was taking the time it took to get over my exes. That was my biggest waste of time. Oh my gosh, some of the
That's
time
a good one.
of sobbing in a stupid bedroom when I could have been productive was trying to get over some of the exes that I've been through and some of the regrets of who I've taken out and spent money on. That is everything else I learned from. But that particular moment of each one that took a piece of me, because let's be honest, they do take a little piece, a little chunk on it. They took up too much real estate in my mind. Oh my! I should have. Oh boy, that's why I'm laughing because that's the only thing that came to my mind. You know, jeez, boy. Dude.
I agree with Rudy. This is a safe place to cry, Antoine.
Let it out, Antoine. Let it out.
Let it out.
Come
We
on,
got
bro.
you.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. Like, I wasted so much time on them. Oh boy, oh boy. You know, and the funny thing is, you're a better man from it. That's the funny thing is, you know, you'll always have that one that got away, you know, the fish that got away. But then when you get over it, you just realize like you wasted so much time on being unproductive and, you know, listening to your own miseries that you could have been so productive, could have been out there, could have been a better person, jump in the gym. That's what I'm going to say to that.
Gotcha.
I think so. My initial thought as I was listening to this question, I'll be honest with you, the first thought I had was the same thing that John said in the chat. Shout out to John. Because I think every experience that I went through was necessary. So I didn't view anything I've been through as a waste of time. I think I shared with a lot of people, even though I was married and divorced, one of the things I've like to say is that was probably the most pivotal moments in my life because I learned so much about myself. However, in the spirit of the question, I think one of the biggest waste of my time, waste of times in my life was comparing myself to other people. I think I did a lot of that at different stages in my life, especially when I was a young boy, kind of like what we just talked about. Um, when I was a young boy looking at other people who had both parents in the house, then as I got older, I realized that just because you had two parents in the house don't necessarily mean they were good parents. They were just your parents. So I think when we look at it from that perspective, I think that's the thing that helped me to realize some things as I progressed to move forward. I started looking at what other people were doing after I graduated high school as well. Like some of my peers went off and started doing stuff like this, and I'm in the Army, right? So it's like, man, these people went out and they got college degrees, and I'm out here being all you can be. So I was doing a comparison thing. And then I got to a certain point, I stopped comparing myself to other people. And the only person I compared myself to was the person I see every time I looked in the mirror. Once I started doing that, then it was more meaningful and productive conversations that I now have with myself. So my biggest waste of time again is the comparison trap, comparing myself to other people.
Totally get that. I think a lot of us probably go through that, man. You know, Vic, he may have some technical difficulties, but he's in the chat, man. Appreciate you. He said one of his biggest waste of time was clubbing. Man, I want to say that, but also to play on what Coach was saying, and the experience piece, I bonded really good with my homeboys at the club at the same time. You know what I mean? Like
You was drunk.
it was, yeah, that was true too. All things are true.
Those are trauma bonds.
Yeah.
Hey, they maybe they were trauma bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, Vic got a couple more, and then I want to hear from you, Antonio, whoever else had went and said what their biggest waste of time is. Vic said spending time with the wrong people. I can see that. He also said arguing with the people that do not have the same experience or understanding. He shout out to trauma bond. What you got on this, Antonio?
Well, I enjoy growth so much that look backwards, it's like, man, it could have been better if you would have just learned how to ingest the book, like really ingest the book. It wasn't until I became a part of this multi-level marketing company. It was several years back when I forced myself to, I'm a team player, so I gotta read this book. And at that point, I committed myself to growth. But I definitely wish that I would have committed myself to growth, because I know I wasted a lot of time. So I mean, there's a lot of situations, like you said, Coach. Every situation made me better. Every situation made me better, made me more sharpen my iron a lot more, right? And to cut into different spaces. But I just know that question is what it is. My biggest waste of time is that I wish I'd have grew a lot more earlier than later. So yeah.
That's real talk. Hey, shout out to Gina in the chat. She said people pleasing for her. She wasted years of her life trying to ensure other people's pleasure. I think that have a lot of truth to it. Gentlemen, real quick, we're gonna switch before we jump into the final thoughts. I want to give a shout out to Tyrone Reed. That's one of my old soldiers. What's up, brother? Son Reed. He said he want to touch on how a father that didn't grow up with a dad should lead his son, an example.
Well, that's an easy one.
With someone without a dad.
Yeah.
Can I
There
say?
you go.
I didn't grow up with
Anybody
that.
can
I have
address
two
it, but
boys.
when you address it, because he specifically said someone who didn't grow with a dad, when you make your reference, just because he may not know everybody up here, just let them know, your upbringing, mother, single mother, whatever like that, when you speak. That way he'll know.
Well, I'm a product of a single mom home. My mom remarried and her
Tyrone,
husband was
I would
trash
say-
and really didn't teach me anything. So I'm going to say what I would do, since you didn't have an example. I would do everything that your father didn't do for your son. Give him everything that your father did not give you. Whatever is missing, put that into your son because he's going to need it. I'll just leave it at that.
I would say, Tyrone, I'm a product. I have 3 other brothers, no sisters. I have one mother. She's been married 5 times. I have 11 uncles. 11 uncles. None of them was a mentor to me, right? That's one of my. And so, how to lead your son is what Chris just said. So the focus is to be better than you saw growing up as a father. Be better. You have to read. You have to those experts in there done that. If you can't hear them, you got to read from them. And I tell you what, you have to look at society as it is now, because you have to know who you're learning from. You have to know where they're at. Are they in their marketing phase? Are they building their business? Right? You have to learn what the bare minimum, the foundation, and what foundation you agree with when it comes to religion, when it comes to other parents, when it comes down to other women. Because if you're going to deal with other women, if you have their mother, right? You have to deal with like what he said. You have to be able to focus on what's important to you, and then you have to identify within them the characteristics that you see within them, and feed into those characteristics. I have 2 boys myself, and so I have to lead them. I have to lead them by example. By example, for one. That's for one. I think Antoine mentioned that. We have to lead by example. And what example? And you have to share with them what your passions are. Share with them what you're interested in. Share with them you think a man should be like. You should, because you have to aspire to be that. You can't be selling dreams. Hopefully you're not that guy to sell dreams to the girls in the club. So I've never been that guy to sell the dreams to the women in the club. So don't sell dreams to your kids. All right. That's one of the biggest things. Be real and be that example and learn how to read and teach them how to read.
I gotta jump in here, and Antonio, you know, you part of the family now, so I gotta jump on you too, because I had to take my glasses off when you said I got one mama, but I forgot we in 2023. So hey, whatever. But for me, I grew up in a household with a bunch of women. You know, I was in a household with my grandmother, my mother, my auntie, my sister, cousins, all female. So pretty much I ain't learned how to pee standing up until I was 12. No, I'm just joking. But I like to joke. But
I was about to say, I hope you joking.
No, I'm joking. But as a man, not having that male role model, I think first and foremost, if you're teaching your children, they just told you the blueprint, the platform, because you know what hindered you, and you know now. And if you don't, you need a mentor first. But you should know what you want to instill in your child, in your male child, how you want him to act, how you want him to carry himself. So that's what you do. You don't have to say, well, Bill Cosby on the Huxtables wasn't my daddy. It don't matter. You know what you didn't like, and you know what you do like. So those things that are positive, instill those things into your children, into your males and female children, and they'll turn out right. It's not that a lot of us didn't grow up with fathers in the house, and we turned out all right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I can only go off my experience with my friends because I, as you guys know. So if I was to go off my friend, like he said, I said, he had no a man dad like normal, but he grew up great, successful. And I said, how does it feel to be a dad? He goes, you know what? I'm just going to give my kid everything I didn't have. That's all he did. He had to go. That's all he had to go off of. So I just think you learn from your mistakes and pass that on. That's all you can do. I mean, that's all he did. He goes, I just wanted my kid to have everything I didn't have, and I was determined to be there. Because he's successful. He threw himself into school. He was the lonely kid. Just threw himself into what he did, and today he's successful and he has a kid of his own, and that's all I can go off of.
Yeah. So for me, I was a military brat until the age of 3. My mother and my father separated. Then we flew out of Heidelberg, Germany, took a hop back to the States, and like my brother Roland, I was raised in a house at that particular point in time with a whole bunch of females. I would say the first thing to keep in mind is that having a leader doesn't make you, having an example does not make you a good father. I want to make sure that I say that, because there are a lot of bad examples out there. And if you pay close attention, you will hear them all the time. Just keep in mind that those are other people's experiences. So having a father in the house or not having a father in the house has no guarantee on making you a good father. So don't look at being raised without a dad as an example as a bad thing, because now you get to create the blueprint of what fatherhood looks like for you in the generations of men in your family to come. I think that's the best place to start. Lead according to the character that you want your lineage, the Reed lineage, to be known as. And I think if you keep that in mind, that will make you that will put you in a space to where you say, I want the Reed men in this family to be honest. I want the Reed men to be respectable. I want them to be, so forth and so on, because you get to create the blueprint now. And I think that's a wonderful space to be in.
Amen. I like that. That was real good. Everybody, I really appreciate all your all your thoughts to read. Reed, I hope you good with this, brother. Hope that all the men up here gave you some good information or something you can use to add to your kit bag, man. So So appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to roll out of here. But before we do, we are going to spend a couple more minutes and go around with the final thought. I don't know why I'm off today, but it is what it is. The show must go on. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Like I said, we're going to go around the horn and we're going to start off with our final thoughts. And we're going to start with none other than the other artist, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Antoine Christopher.
Final thoughts. Oh boy. Pertaining to what we talked about today, I would definitely say be the father that you did, that if you didn't have one, be the father you want to be. Discipline your kid, be the right dad, do the right things, lead by example. You know, some are more fortunate than others, you know. So I would say guide them in the right direction, you know. Don't make your kid live some delusional life. That ain't gonna happen. Be realistic with him. You know, encourage him where he wants to go, but at a certain point, make him understand that, you know, not everybody's blessed to do certain things. You're blessed to do what you want to do and what you're meant to do. So find his passion and encourage his passion. You know, be a good example for him. Don't kill his dreams. Nothing about killing dreams. It's about making him experiencing them, make him see them. You know, it's like a plant. You keep watering it. But if you see him in a positive direction, throw more on it. So I would say that as for what we spoke about today. Be the example you want your kid to be.
Wake up, Antonio.
I'm doing something. But anyhow, I would say this conversation has been great. And when it comes down to wasting time or not being productive with your time or not leading or leading a child, I believe it is all about your priorities and how you live in your life. And what is your goals? What is your dreams, your aspirations? Are you doing anything about them? If you're doing something about them, are you being productive with it? And being productive is really being aware of your situation, your living situation, your work situation, and of course your time. Your time. Are you looking at your calendar? Are you going off a calendar? Are you just going off the whim? There are big things in your life that you want to pay attention to. Get them out the way. If that takes time, focus on that. That's what's going to take time. But make sure you don't look back and say, because you just project yourself however far ahead, next year, 5 years, whatever. You project yourself further and you say, hey, would this be a waste of time if I'm looking back? That's my biggest thing. You look at your kids the same way. Would this, me being angry about this, or me talking to him about this, or would this be a waste of time, a waste of energy, a waste of mindset? Because you can waste away your mindset by being angry, and you lose so much time. So please just be mindful of those things. Project yourself, your future self, your future self. That's all I got.
What should men be doing with their time? I think I said this earlier. I think the best way, especially if you're young, this is something that we were never taught when we were young. Find you a skill that's scalable, so that way you can pay for your passion. Or if your passion is a skill that can be scalable, pursue that, and do not allow anyone to put their limited mindset on your goals, because they are your goals. Do not expect people to understand what you're doing. Don't even expect them to think you're going to succeed. But if you can find something that you love to do, that you would do for free, but people will pay you to do it, go do that. You'll be better off in the long run. That's my final thought.
So my final thoughts is going to be very simple. Everybody kind of gave their book plug tonight, so I want to give mine because I think this kind of helps to create the understanding that I want to speak on. And so the book that I have for this evening is "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. And as you can see, the subtitle is "The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph." This book is all about talking about certain people from historical references and how they took adversity and turned it into triumph. And I think that's the thing that we have to do. So to my brother Tyrone Reed, again, I think that's a good point of reference because what should men be doing with their time? One of the things I believe, as you can see behind me, is that they should themselves should never lose the desire to learn. You should be a lifelong learner. You should be continuing to sharpen this thing right here, especially as we get older, because this right here is the most valuable weapon that you have, or the most valuable resource. I'm not going to say weapon. It's the most valuable resource that you have. I know when we were younger, we thought we were bulletproof and we can run like the $6 million man. For those of you who are old enough to understand that reference, but I think that's the key because with a sharpened mind, you can actually be that person that your child really needs you to be, not the person that you think you're supposed to be. And I think that kind of helps to shape the reality for me. And I want to go back to it again. For me, I think the key that I wish I understood earlier is that, again, I get to create the blueprint for other young men to emulate. Now I think I'm doing that now as a mentor. Shout out to my brother Antonio because I think it's just awesome. So from that point on, now you can steer them in the direction of setting goals, right? Setting a vision for their life and setting goals or milestones to meet in order to achieve that vision. You can get to the point of helping them to develop a plan, like we talked about, to reach those milestones, so forth and so on. And again, help them to understand that it's okay to celebrate accomplishments. I think that's important to understand. I think a lot of times what we tend to do is we get so fixated on the fact that we got this task and this task and this task, and we become so task oriented that we forget to be human. So help them to appreciate the human experience as they're going through it. And I think for me, you got to get to the point to where we don't continue along the line of task accomplishments. Because again, one of my favorite sayings that I'm saying a lot more these days is you have to remember to be a human being, not a human doing.
Wow. Everything that they said. I mean, what men should be doing. You should either be finding your purpose, working in your purpose. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but when you expose yourself to different things and you find like, man, I really enjoy this, I enjoy that, and certain things you want to put to work, you want to actually do something in that field, that's where you find your purpose. That's where you find your being. As a coach just said, be a human being, not a human doing. And when you get to that point where you can sit down and find purpose, never forget to enjoy yourself. Time is wasted on people thinking too much, people trying too much. Sometimes you just got to sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoy your children, enjoy your time while you're here, because at the end of the day, the next second isn't promised. So everything that they said, and finding your purpose, and enjoy the process of just living.
Hey, gentlemen, I appreciate everything that you guys said. But before we go, we're about to roll out tonight, gentlemen and ladies, and everybody watching. But before we do, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share it with someone you think could benefit from it. I also thank you to all of the Wolfpack members here tonight. Thank you to everybody who joined today's episode, and a big shout out to the Most Elevated Chat on YouTube. Don't forget to check out the other different podcasts. Check out the description if you want to get in contact with us about anything. And we will see all of you back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another great episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. We are